Is this working? Oh yeah, okay. Okay, hello everyone. So we are presenting our group's work on double factorization systems and double fibrations. My name is CB.
Hi, I'm Ruben.
I'm Matt.
I'm Tanzana.
And I am Dorette, the mentor of the group, and our two TAs, Luca and Elena, had other commitments for this week, but were certainly a great help in everything we did. So in preparation for this week, we had been studying fibrations and double categories, and I always like to compare my research to hiking. So we got to know the landscape and the mountains around us that we wanted to climb. And we realized that a number of our mountains were too technical for a regular hike. And so the last part of our talk today will be about the technical equipment that we developed or started developing to be able to climb those other mountains. And there was one mountain that was spotted by some of our students, and that was of orthogonal factorization systems. And we found two trails, and we'll tell you about what we did on those trails and what we hope to do in the future.
Okay, so the first thing I'm going to introduce is our orthogonal factorization system before we go to double orthogonal factorization system. So orthogonal factorization, an orthogonal factorization system on a category, on a one category, is a pair of classes, L for left class and R for right class of morphisms in C, such that every morphism of C is a composite of a left class followed by a morphism. It's a composite of a morphism from the left class followed by a morphism in the right class. And these classes are closed under having the lifting property against each other, which means whenever we have a commuting square made of a left morphism, a morphism from the left class on the right, and the right morphism from the right class on the right, and two morphisms of C. And whenever the square commutes, then we have a unique square in between, which makes the two triangle commutes. Okay. Sorry. Okay. Thanks. Okay, so one very important thing about orthogonal factorization system is that it is functorial. And what functorial factorization system does is to assign each morphisms of C to a pair of morphisms L, F, and RF, where LF is from the left class and RF is from the right class, such that the morphism F is a composite of left LF from the left class followed by RF, which is a morphism from the right class. And this assignment can extend to a functor from the arrow category of C to the category C, which sends every morphism F of, to the objects in the middle of the factorization system. Okay, sorry. Yeah. And these are something which is known on orthogonal factorization system is that normal pseudo algebra for the two monads power of 2 on cats are categories with orthogonal factorization system. And we can use this to obtain a category of categories with orthogonal factorization system by looking at morphisms between algebra for these two monads to get morphisms between categories with an orthogonal factorization system. And I guess now it's time to introduce double orthogonal factorization system, which will start first by introducing double categories and example, and that will be done by Ruben.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, first a quick review on double categories. Well, a double category is a collection of objects together with two types of arrows. We have like horizontal arrows and pro arrows. Oh. Well, the pro arrows are the one that we draw horizontally, sorry, and morphisms are like normal arrows or arrows in categories, and we draw those vertically, and we have cells that are framed by two vertical arrows and two horizontal arrows. Some examples of that are spans. Those are, if we start with a category C with pullbacks, then we have vertical arrows, the normal morphisms in C, and horizontal arrows are spans. We can do something similar with rel set. We have vertical arrows, relations, and the horizontal ones are just the functions. And if we also start with a double category C, we can build the quintet double category using the one cells in C and two cells in C. And the last example is modules, or actually bimodules over rings with units. And the vertical arrows are the ring morphisms, and I always mix vertical and horizontal. The vertical ones are bimodules between rings, and the horizontal ones are ring morphisms. And we have cells if we have equivariant morphisms between bimodules. So double categories can also be seen as internal categories in CAT. Okay, so our main goal, or the goal during the last week, was to explore ways to define double orthogonal fibration systems on double categories. And we also want those factorization systems to behave well respect the vertical composition. So we want to start with two motivating examples.
Thank you. So to start out, let's consider a category C equipped with an orthogonal factorization system and look at the double category of spans over C. In this case, we have a double factorization system given by, or where the left class of double cells is formed from the left class of arrows in C, going between pro-arrows, which are spans in this case, and the right class is just the right class of double cells from the factorization system on C, and going between spans again. So we require here, or rather we have here, that source, target, and identities and vertical composition all preserve the left class of morphisms and the right class, which is a nice thing to have. Excuse me. So as another example, let's look at the double category of relations over the category of sets. Now, the category of sets has a pretty well-known orthogonal factorization system given by epimono factorization, and the double category of relations inherits this in a canonical way. So the unit in source, so the source and target maps in this situation preserve the two classes of arrows strictly, which is nice. However, the horizontal composition does not preserve the left class. When this is interesting because it tells us that we need some lax notion along with the strong notion we had from the previous example. We need a notion of lax morphisms between categories equipped with a factorization system. And this brings us to our initial definition of a double orthogonal factorization system. So a strict double orthogonal factorization system is obtained by first considering the category of categories equipped with an orthogonal factorization system and functors between them which preserve the left and right class of morphisms. And we take a category object in this, an internal category, to obtain a double orthogonal factorization system. This is the same line of thinking where one might define a double category as a category internal to the category of categories, CAT. In this case, we are defining it internal to the category of categories equipped with a factorization system. And we require that vertical source, target, identity, and composition are able to strictly preserve the factorizations. The corresponding lax notion is obtained by taking an internal category in the category of categories equipped with orthogonal factorizations and lax morphisms between them instead of strict morphisms in the previous case. We still need vertical source, target, and identity to strictly preserve the factorizations, but vertical composition will now be a lax morphism. So when one talks about orthogonal factorization systems, it's natural to talk about how these might interact with fibrations. And in the case of double categories, a fibration is given by the notion of a double fibration. The easiest way to define this is usually by taking the internal definition of a double category, which we have on the top and bottom, and defining a double functor component-wise, which is a fibration on each component. We require that each of these fibrations admits a cleavage, which is preserved by the source and target maps of E. And we also require that the identity and composition preserve Cartesian morphisms. So in the world of just regular fibrations, if we have given a fibration of one categories where the codomain admits an orthogonal factorization system, we can lift this orthogonal factorization system to one on the domain. This is a fairly well-known result, and it generalizes nicely to our notion of double orthogonal factorization systems. Given a double fibration and a strict orthogonal factorization system on the codomain, we can lift this to one on the domain. And when we do this with the trivial orthogonal factorization system, we get the pseudo-vertical Cartesian structure on or pseudo-vertical Cartesian factorization system on the domain, which is also what happens in the classical case. So we conjecture that this also holds for lax double orthogonal factorization systems as well.
Well, we also looked to another approach to define double orthogonal factorization system in a double category. So we first consider the two monad that goes from the two category of double categories to itself. And this is to the arrow or power. So in that sense, any double category A to the category A to the arrow. A to the arrow is a double category again, which objects are arrows in A. The arrows are commutative squares in the arrows of A. Pro arrows now are double cells, and double cells are nice cubes. I don't want to say many details. There's two approaches or two ways to consider the domain and codomain. We can take the two category of double categories, normal pseudo-double functors and horizontal transformations, or we can take the lax version of that. So our theorem is that in both cases, if we consider the pseudo-algebras in that monad, we get our strict double orthogonal factorization systems or our lax double orthogonal factorization system. So
All right, so as Dorette said at the start, dealing with all of these sort of like complicated categorical structures of increasing dimension, we found that we needed some ways to deal with the technical complexity of that. And so now we're going to talk about some of that. And so what we're going to start off with is a way of looking at sort of the graphical structure of a functor. And this is going to be really useful for understanding properties of fibrations. So given a functor from E to B and an object in the base category, if there's an object A in the domain, the functor maps to that object in the base, we can depict that with this sort of vertical dashed arrow. And then similarly, if we have two sort of vertical arrows like that. And if we have one morphism in the domain that lies over one in the codomain, we can depict that as a square like this. And an immediate nice consequence of that is that squares like that compose horizontally. And that's just a natural consequence of the fact that the functor has to preserve composition. But a neat thing about that is that when you have the composition of two squares equal to a third, you can naturally arrange them into a triangular prism like this. And this is really nice because it gives a really straightforward way of talking about things like Cartesian morphisms and fibrations, if you know a bit about how those work. So in this diagram, we can say that a morphism F lying over G, as in this diagram, is Cartesian if and only if for any partial triangular prism that's missing an edge coming into the domain of F, then there's a unique way of completing that to a triangular prism. And so this graphical framework is really nice for working with fibrations, but it also works really well for double categories and other hypercategorical structures if you just generalize it a bit in the way that I'm about to talk about. So if you go back here and you notice all we were talking about here are shapes like triangles lying over each other and stuff like that. And so that's really naturally interpreted in the internal language of the topos of simplicial sets. And so because of that, we can make use of Emily Reel and Mike Schulman's work on simplicial type theory to formalize all of this using these ideas from simplicial type theory and stuff like that. And so we've actually started doing this in AGDA, extended with some axioms for simplicial type theory. But one really interesting thing about this is that in simplicial type theory, we have two ways to define categories. We can either do it just in the normal way where you have like a type of objects and types of morphisms, or you can do it using the ambient simplicial structure where you use that to talk about like lines and triangles and higher simplices in other types and stuff like that. And the cool thing is you can do both of these at once, and that gives you a really natural internal definition of double categories in simplicial type theory. And so we're hoping to make use of this in our study of double fibrations, double factorization systems, and so on. And so, okay, so do I have off to now?
So there is some work in progress to keep working on in future. So we want to also check what happened in quintets. If we already have a factorization system over the two categories C, we want to check if that endow QC with double factorization system and vice versa. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Well, I think it's better to mention the other part.
Yeah, okay. And so just building on what I talked about in the last slide there. So far we've formalized internal categories, double categories, and fibrations in simplicial AGDA. We are also hoping to formalize double fibrations and double factorization systems and formally verify a bunch of the results that we proved in the previous slides. And more after that, which you can read there. But so anyway, so that's what we've been doing, and thank you so much.
Is simplicial AGDA already exist?
I wrote it.
So, like, will it be on GitHub or anything?
Yes.
One more quick question is, you said you just extended it with the was it as simple as just adding postulates?
Postulates and rewrite rules. I mean, it takes a little finesse whenever you're doing that, but yeah.
Thank you again. I'm sure we have more questions, but please let's record the coffee.